Welcome back, everybody. Counterlogic Gaming versus Luminosity is next up on the docket. Anatoly now joining me here on the desk. Totally, this is actually a very, very big game. Now that Trifecta has lost, that puts us in a position where if LG end up losing this, then that means that CLG and Trifecta might have to go to a tiebreaker.
Yeah, considering their head-to-head record was split down the even between those 2 weeks that they faced off. That could be really spicy to wrap things up in Week 6 of North America SPL.
And it's not just if CLG wins, they have to win in 3 games because that would make their plus-minus only 1 better. Plus-minus is the first thing we look at before head-to-head record. So if CLG 2-0 here, then we're all done. But if it does take 3 games for Counterlogic Gaming, there will be a tiebreaker set. Not just 1 game, but a tiebreaker set between themselves and Trifecta. But first, they've got to try and get through LG, and that 4th seed is a really big deal here. It's the difference between playing a really good team early on in the placement or maybe being able to wait a little bit longer.
That's true. LG have looked a little bit shaky, I would say, with some of their roster changes. Geno moving from the support to the mid lane now, picking up Inbowned there. So I'm curious to see how they're going to do to close out the current Week 6 roster. But I think that they have the potential because CLG have not looked too pretty on their own side.
No, neither team has really impressed as of late, but Luminosity moving this man, Geno, towards the mid lane, out of that support role, picking up Inbound. There's been a little bit of a adjustment period, I'd say, both for Inbound, moving over from the console scene, now playing on PC, the first console native to play in the SPL. And then, of course, you've got Geno trying to adjust to a whole new role. It's a lot to ask in a short time, I think, as we get very, very close to those placements.
Didn't Sino originally start in the console before?
No. Sino was a minor league player, know, Challenger Cup at the time, before he moved over to the console scene.
Well, either way, Inbound trying to make it happen for LG. He definitely has the personality, I would say, for a well-determined elite support player. I'm not sure how much time it's going to take to fit in with the mold of LG, because knowing LG and knowing how aggressive Weekend is, at times, some of the shot calls could be too hard for certain people to handle. I think that was the case for ShadowChair and why he kind of fell off the radar, but I think that Bobby can certainly keep up.
Yeah, we'll see if that happens. On the other side for CLG, they've had a disappointing season throughout. I'm sure they are sick of hearing us say it. I'm sure that fans are sick of hearing us say it, but it's just the case. I mean, this is a team that has a lot of star-studded talent that is now worried about falling to the 5th seed in NA, and if they were to do so, they'd really be right there with Luminosity. So it's really, they're close to 6.
I'm almost tired of talking about CLG and like their star power, right? Because it's like they haven't performed of what their names have definitely proven. Because you look at what they were able to do in Soar of Season 3, you know, making a lot of plays happen. Not the same exact roster of Season 3, but still, you know, Hurriwind,
it's everyone but Baskin.
Jigz, Snoopy was there as well. And I think that at the end of the day, CLG still have the potential because their ceiling is certainly up there. They have that potential, but they just need to find a way to keep it consistent.
Well, Masked in that jungle, remember, they have a roster change that's even more recent than that of Luminosity, so we'll see how that affects Counterlogic Gaming as we're ready for picks and bans now as they head up against LG. Masked, the newest member of either team right now in the jungle for CLG. He took a very short retirement, as is custom for Masked at this point. What do you think that, if you're Masked right now, are you the primary focus of the team? Or are you just trying to fit in? Like, how do you think that he should be handling
This should be his team. Like, anywhere Masked goes, it should be his team at the end of the day. When he came off of his competitive ban to join Team Envious, that wasn't his team. Yes. He was a little bit too nervous to try to play for them, despite having the mechanical skill and the prowess. It needs to be a determining factor for him to not only prove to us fans or us analysts here at home, but to prove to himself that he's able to overcome that kind of thoughts and opinions to just really start ruling the team on his own side.
Do you think it was his team when he played under Luminosity Gaming with Jeff and Terra?
No, I think he was definitely overshadowed at some points, and I think that's why he was second-guessing himself in certain fights. I remember seeing him hesitant at points in time, so if there's ever a time for him to really start taking over, it's got to be with CLG.
Well, it's going to try and be with the Pele right now for CLG, as Mercury was the first selection for Luminosity, a signature pick for Weekend, and one that is just thought of as very strong right now, and for good reason. Mercury receiving a nerf in the next update. If you missed the patch notes show, sorry for the spoiler. Check them out. Terra's really cool. Terra and Anhur are going to be the next two. LG trying to control that duo lane side, though Terra can flex a solo.
And Anhur can flex to the mid lane if they really wanted to.
True.
Hurriwind has been playing that for CLG on the side of LG. Geno could potentially play it. I think he did actually play it not too long ago. So trying to already anticipate the double hunter Kuzenbo for fineokay.
fineokay's been playing a lot of Kuzenbo recently, and I think we're seeing more and more Kuzenbo throughout the SPL, and I think that it makes a lot of sense with the rise of these double auto attack composition, whether it's double hunter or hunter plus Freya, hunter plus Soul. There's lots of room for gods like Kuzenbo, especially when gods like Mercury are in the meta, where you're really incentivized to go crazy.
Watery Grave also, being able to disrupt those basic attackers from getting off what their whole job is to do is a great form of peel. I believe it was earlier today where it was Pain to Beyond in the Smite minor league playing the Kuzenbo. The most obnoxious Kuzenbo I've ever seen. So you get a good Kuzenbo player behind you, you make those late game hyper carries life's miserable.
Ram is one of those late game hyper carries, but he's got Kuzenbo on his side this time around. That'll be for Snoopy in the duo lane. We expect, at least I expect, Hurriwind has played it in mid before though, as Vulcan is the selection here for Geno.
Yeah, I would expect it to be Snoopy, because even when Snoopy was playing mid for that one small portion of time, he was still playing physical hunters,
That's right, and
specifically the Ram.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the best Rams in the world, no doubt about it. A lot of people think of Jermaine and now Artio and stuff like that. Everyone kind of forgets about young man Evan Jones over there in the duo lane for CLG as Puch the final pick in a pretty good one against Sylvanus. That anti-heal, not really anti-heal, but you de-incentivize that Wisp usage with Fleeting Breath. Is that Puch pick enough to win CLG the draft? Make sure you get your votes in.
It's very possible. I think that Empty the Crypt with the 60% anti-healing you get from that is good enough to really disrupt that. The stun you get from that third ability is good to keep Sylvanus in place, and it's going to be easy to land those corpses applying the slow. A good draft from CLG, and I think the focus is to abuse Inbound.
If you can abuse Inbound early, that's a good way to win. I am worried about this Mercury selection, though. If you're CLG, that is where I think you have to spend a lot of focus. He is going to be the most consistent damage, most likely, in this game and in this roster. Let's wait no longer. Game one ready between Luminosity and CLG. Let's throw it to the casters.
Thanks a lot there, aggro. LG and CLG. I'm Tom, and this is Taco. How you doing there, Taco?
I'm feeling pretty good, and I'm really interested, actually, to see how this recent roster swap for CLG continues to pan out for them now that they've got Mass representing the jungle role.
Yeah, it's a really big step up, in my opinion. No disrespect to homie Effie. I think he's a strong jungler. Mask, though, has definitely, I think, been a little bit more exciting here in Season 5. Homie Effie just never seemed to get off the ground, unfortunately.
Pretty crazy start over here in the duo lane, however. Jigz looking to get aggressive now with Clout. Snoopy and Jigz were looking for the invade, but now Jigz might have bit off a little bit more than he could chew, forced into the sprint even from Clout's nice impale against the wall.
Luminosity also seeing some changes like CLG. Geno moving from the support role up there into the mid lane. And that opened up a spot for Inbound, the console league champion, making his PC debut here.
Bobby's already he's got one ring already from the console side of things, hoping to see if he can make his way to Worlds and the other platform. But first, they'll have to make their way up against CLG, and not so much so that they can earn the free trip over to Dreamhead by any means, but it's good to build that momentum leading up to the placement rounds.
I mean, for teams like this that have just gone through roster changes, these games are just as important as anything else. I mean, if I was looking at any other team, right, then you're sitting in a position where that sort of thing is a different conversation. These games can kind of be, I would say, just almost an annoyance, whereas I have a new jungler, I have a new support, I want to play as many games at a competitive level as possible, and scrims don't always do that. You got to play on the big stage.
Well, it feels like solid training right now for Inbound, because Snoopy and Jigz have been rather aggressive in this duo lane, and for good reason. Artio, Ram, normally Ram would lose the lane pressure after the first wave because Astral Arrows only take you so far for the start. And as soon as level 2 came in, though, for Inbound and Clout, seems like they've managed to recover this lane quite nicely.
Yeah, Inbound even going for a grab there. Gonna miss it. Jigz sidesteps to the right. But Luminosity Gaming certainly trying to train their new support. You know, Clout has been #2 runner-up on the World Championships before. Inbound, certainly, we've seen him past couple of games here for LG, certainly has a lot to learn as far as this is concerned.
I like what Snoopy was doing there, by the way, just consistently putting a shot or two into Clout every time he moved up to look to attack the minion wave, and Snoopy was able to do it safely because Jigz was taking all that creep aggro. Snoopy was sitting so far back, and Clout being forced to push up because Bobby had pulled the pressure of the minions a little bit further ahead.
Yeah, it's certainly a lopsided dual lane for now. But we'll see how the rest of the game kind of goes out. Geno has been so exciting to watch here in the support role, and then moving over to mid, still just very exciting.
I really like seeing Geno on the Vulcan as well because it's a refreshing change-up. We've been seeing a lot of hunters from Geno, most specifically the Anhur, but giving Clout a hunter that he can be really aggressive with into Snoopy when Snoopy's probably taking this ROM pick, I think is a little bit of a shot towards Clout because Clout has been playing a lot of ROM recently, and Snoopy just looking to make him uncomfortable, but I almost feel like that's exactly what Clout wanted to begin with because Anhur is a god that you just look to scrap with the whole way through.
Yeah, you're just always looking to fight. Clout certainly no stranger to that idea and mindset, so might just slide right on in there. But yeah, Snoopy certainly going to the ROM. Listen, there's only one Arkle. Arkle's been able to just play ROM pretty much all season. When he's not, he goes to the Anhur. So Clout here kind of taking a page out of the Europeans' book, but similar approach to the game as well.
And Weekend on this Mercury, too. Can't ever count him out either. You have to remember, he got a skin for this god back in the day when he was still with Envy.
Yeah, he came onto the scene kind of flexing that Circuit, and everybody talked about Weekend Circuit, but I think Mercury was the next character that really kind of elevated him to that next level. And Weekend going to continue walking in that direction, starting off with the odd boy build here, not rushing, not going into boots, but going into that Golden Blade early and often, so that he's able to go ahead and clear camps early and often.
And Golden Blade Rush, as to be expected from any Mercury player. I like that little move, though, from fineokay, stopping Kiki from effectively getting off the double dash for the full wave clear.
Yeah, just a little bit of disruption there. Kiki able to get things done, but that's after the blue buff goes down for CLG. So now when Terra looks for her own blue buff, fineokay will be able to mess with them.
And this is where things can start to get really interesting for Luminosity now that Weekend has the completion of this Golden Blade. But hold that thought, Snoopy's going to get caught out of that rollout. Nice impale into the pillar there from Clout. Desert Fury, though, not going to bring Snoopy within a low enough threshold that Clout feels comfortable chasing.
Yeah, just about half HP. Clout could go in, but certainly a little bit safer if not. Hurriwind gets his ultimate chased out. Nice job there from Weekend. He'll walk away pretty much unscathed.
But the discipline in that moment from Clout to not just immediately rush in there with the leap, I think is something that can kind of attest to his player experience. When you see a hunter not panicking and choosing to go into the Astral Barrage, you can kind of just assume that they probably have backup nearby.
Yeah, the body language is kind of how I phrase that. You're just able to it's map vision, it's map sense, awareness. Players will tell you they just have this like spidey sense, if you will, right? They can feel the rotation coming. That's really what it is.
And do you see the anti-Mercury awards already from Snoopy inside of the purple buff pretty much? It's going to take a little bit of time, I think, before Luminosity really spot that one out. And there's always the concern. Teams have more now than ever been placing wards in between T1 and T2 towers for the earlier laning phases so as to try and prevent those long-range sonic booms.
Yeah, especially over here in the mid lane, and then down by solo it could get really devastating. Dual lane's a little bit different. I think it's easier to rotate over there and make some impacts, but the mid lane and the solo lane is really where Mercury can kind of come out of nowhere.
I think it's safe to assume, though, that we're probably not going to see a whole lot of Weekend in solo this time around, mostly because ganking a Kuzenbo doesn't ever really go too well for a Mercury.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to call him a direct counter, but certainly along the way. Wrapped up the ultimate from the mid lane. Geno with the long range shot. Beautiful combo right there. Mask is able to bounce back, but Bobby with a nice pull. Looks like he might be punished for it, though. Weekend was not ready for Inbound's pull.
Weekend special delivery, though, just came up off cooldown, and they had Kiki to help peel just in case also. So Mask will live to see another day. clean 1-for-1 exchange, mid laner for mid laner. But you have to appreciate that nice little synergy there between Geno and Weekend. Geno just having the full trust in his jungler that he was going to toss him where he needed to go, or toss Hurriwind where he needed to go.
Exactly. That's where Geno just kind of throws the ball, and it's up to Weekend to make sure that it hits the target. And a great job there for the Mercury, using the special delivery for the crowd control. And like you said, just a classic combo. The trust is really what impressed me.
And despite having taken a death, it still works out ultimately in Luminosity's favor, since they were the ones that received the first blood bounty. Mask might get a little bit of benefit here. Will have a slight experience lead over Weekend also, but I'd imagine this will start fading away pretty quickly once the boots are acquired for Weekend, because Golden Blade, Warrior Tabi, good luck contesting any camp.
Yeah, he's going to be able to just made you look at one-shot things, and that's going to be a scary thing to think about in the jungle, with respect to how Weekend is also going to be rotating the map and trying to make an impact in that regard. Here he's got 1 assist, and we'll likely see the kill count turn all the way up. But for now, still kind of hanging out. Another good pull by Inbound. Snoopy's got to roll away.
Clout was looking for the impale into the wall there. Going to be forced into the Desert Fury. Snoopy's so incredibly low, still taking damage from the Wrath of Terra. Also, dot damage is rather effective here, and Snoopy's going to land at 1 HP.
Weekend shows up, though, to dissuade the enemy team and does get the kill onto Snoopy. And you wanted to talk about Geno's trust in Weekend. I love what Clout did there. He launches the ultimate, understanding that Inbound is going to look for the ultimate of his own, and that should theoretically be enough crowd control. Snoopy a little bit too quick on the uptake, and then hits the ultimate, so he's CC immune. Doesn't get knocked up, which means he doesn't die. But the level of trust for Luminosity, this is a very positive thing that you're rooting for if you're seeing this team.
And Luminosity, they're going all the way with this one, trying to confirm the Gold Fury. Impale is going to do it, but now they've got to save the life of their mid laner and jungle. In fact, Weekend won't be able to get away, but so far, jungle for the Gold Fury, still pretty worth it. Losing Geno, though, a little bit more questionable, but probably still in Luminosity's favor there.
I think I'd have to agree. 2 for the Gold Fury at 10 minutes is probably a little bit even. You can see there, it's still a little bit up. Let's say they got 20% all told.
Kiki's a true teammate.
Yeah.
Kiki has got to be considered the most real one out there for dropping that speed buff, despite understanding that it would ultimately cost him his blue buff in return. But still, making sure that Weekend, nothing can interfere with that speed buff, baby.
Not at all. It's important stuff. Kiki is here to see if he can steal away the Pyromancer. Jigz gonna press on him on the right-hand side. Luminosity steals it. Banks to Weekend, cutting the team fight in half. Mask gonna suffer the same fate unless he's able to wiggle on out thanks to the movement speed. And it looks like he won't. Weekend gets him with the mage you look. And now Weekend behind enemy lines will be fighting Jigz.
And there's a speed buff on the line here, but Weekend's got backup. It's not just Jigz and Weekend, it's gonna be Kiki also. But Jigz, without any mana, can't really put up much of a fight here. Luminosity, not only do they steal that Pyromancer, they take down Mask, they get his beads for pretty much nothing. And on top of all that, the speed buff, talk about a double whammy for a jungler.
Yeah, I mean, Mercury's certainly sitting on Cloud 9 right now. Luminosity Gaming down 2,000 gold just about. And Luminosity looking for their next move. With the Gold Fury down, the Oracle's also in their game. I'm looking for the aggressive jungle plays.
Kiki drew all of the attention, though, in that last engagement. Everybody was so focused around waiting for the Terra wall to come down and finalize so they could finish bursting the Pyromancer that they weren't really paying much mind to how far back or if anybody else from Luminosity was in the area, and that's how Weekend was able to slide through with that Sonic Boom for the steal.
Yeah, and just cuts right through the team fight as well after the fact. Chases down Pele. Mask falls down for the first time in this game. Very impressive stuff coming out from Weekend. We talked about it earlier. You know, he kind of made a name for himself on this character after the Circuit days, and the Mercury certainly is treating him well.
And he's only trying to amp it up even further. Gonna toss out fineokay because he wanted to make sure he could confirm that buff for Kiki. I don't believe the shell spikes are available, so that's gonna be an immediate watery grave from fineokay. Geno with a little bit of a zoning ult going on there, pal, but no problem. fineokay still looking to just control Weekend.
Yeah, he's gonna find his way on the backside one more time. fineokay in trouble. Beautiful ultimate coming out from Hurriwind, but it's still LG up on top Weekend takes down Mass.
And through all that calamity, Weekend's target focus could not have been better. It drops the attempt against bringing down fineokay and immediately prioritizes Mass, realizing that Mass managed to isolate himself away from where the rest of CLG were disengaging towards.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they're looking for. They want to see the disengage, but realistically, Luminosity, I want to see them play aggressive. This is the moment where Gold Fury is going to be up in about 1 minute and 30. And I want to see them repeatedly do that sort of thing. Look for those invades, look for those pushes, and kind of demand that the opposition has to play their style.
I actually want to see what happened in a second here, but first I want to check out fineokay in a little bit of trouble. Weekend, though, dealing most of the damage to himself. Going to have the special delivery away from fineokay. The Thorns just making Weekend have a taste of his own medicine.
Not his finest moment at that time, but you said you wanted to say. We have the replay, actually. Weekend beforehand getting things done, and here Weekend able to really make this team fight happen.
And it's the immediate disengage from both. It's a nice meatball on the fineokay to start things off, right? Or not fineokay, excuse me. That was from Geno, but it just disorients things a little bit too heavily. Luminosity immediately back off because of the Unleash the Crypts out of Hurriwind, and they realize that more members of CLG are slowly starting to trickle over, but Mass somehow ends up on that far left side away from the entirety of CLG. So absolutely no one to help him out here. Still had his beats on cooldown at the time too for like another 40 seconds or so.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta be aware of those relic cooldowns. You gotta treat them very, very carefully. And when those are down, you gotta adjust your game. You just can't be. I just ask players to be aggressive. If your relics are down, you can't be that aggressive. So many variables, and you have to really kind of keep track of all of them.
But now all of this. Remember not too long ago, Mass was at level 9 and Weekend was 8. How the tables have turned entirely in Weekend's favor. 14 now, 3 levels up on Mask, and this Pele still trying to work on the Soul Leader to get a little bit more self-sustained and survivability going, but Mask is just struggling to break through this crowd control.
Kiki's on the back line. There's a wrap-up from Weekend. Big shot from the mid lane. It's going to be immune, but Weekend says no, and Snoopy goes down after the Aegis.
Weekend gonna run away from that Nene by fineokay, and with Gold Fury still on the board, Luminosity seem like they're gearing up, ready to take it. Nice monolith placement there from Kiki, gonna try and deter CLG from wanting to trickle in here, but all of CLG, they still want to contest this Gold Fury. They can't afford to Luminosity have another one.
25% of the objective. Down to the bottom goes Weekend. Aegis for the moment, but Mask ultimately going to be able to catch up as his team shows up in the clutch. Inbound with a great knock-up, feeding Clout the kill. One more shot will take care of fineokay. He will not be drowned just yet. Fantastic play by Inbound. The follow-up from Clout sets them up for this objective. LG off to a start.
I can't even blame Mask for chasing Weekend on that one.
No.
He had that kill. That was Mask kill to lose, and it's forcibly stripped away from him by Inbound. Geno also with an unintentional body block. That's what really prevented Mask from moving any forward onto Weekend, was Geno's backfire happened to put him into position to where he could successfully body block Mask into that Wrath of Terra from Inbound. It's a stroke of luck for Luminosity, if you ask me, but it's one that CLG honestly didn't want to have to deal with.
Yeah, they just did not. That wasn't part of their plan when they came here for the game today. But, you know, sometimes you, life gives you lemons.
And they're making lemonade.
17 minutes in here, and LG have control, despite some things going CLG's way. About 5,000 gold lead, give or take.
What is the best flavor of lemonade?
Oh, I do like strawberry.
I think I have to go with raspberry on this one. Strawberry lemonade is really good.
I go with raspberry.
But
yes,
raspberry doesn't
agree.
taste like raspberries when it's mixed with lemonade. And I know that sounds really crazy to say, but I feel like other people who also enjoy raspberry lemonade will understand that.
I completely understand, and raspberry lemonade is the correct answer. I think you can entertain strawberry, and I think you can actually entertain peach, believe it or not.
There's blueberry also.
Don't talk to me about no blueberry lemonade.
I've never tried it.
Don't.
But
Not good.
do Are we going to a dark place here?
We don't talk about wearing them. I don't.
Fair enough. I'll take your word for
It's
it.
bad news bears. That's all I can really say about that one. Jigz trying to be just that. Running up on inbound, cutting him down to about 60%. Mask on the right side, ultimate used. And the Rhythm Terra now ticking down on Mask.
Nice poke damage, though, from Geno. And Inbound will manage to escape. CLG, I don't think all that interested in trying to drop everything onto a Sylvanus in the hopes of finding another kill. And with the way that things have gone for CLG and a lot of these teamfight engagements, as far as RNG is concerned, I can completely understand CLG not wanting to take their chances.
Yeah, they've flipped a coin every time since, and it's always been heads you win, tails we lose. That's kind of where Luminosity Gaming is right now. Unfortunately, not working out for them. That said, their newest acquisition, Mask, seems to be having the best game out of anybody.
The problem now, though, for CLG is with Luminosity having hyper-farmed so efficiently and mostly looking towards weaken in this department. Even Clout, though, has managed to build up a pretty serious level gap over Snoopy, making trades very unfavorable for Snoopy right now. That I don't think the CLG can afford to let Luminosity start to pull an objective, because if they're not all in the area when Luminosity start a Fire Giant or a Gold Fury, it's just going to be gone by the time they get there.
Yeah, weekend just being able to crit through things, that's one of the bigger deals when it comes to objective secure, is how fast your assassin can reasonably attack, and if they have crit, because that's weekend certainly building into that one. They can attack pretty damn fast.
Even with the Kuzenbo, Weekend still trying to push forward because he knows he's only going to be looking towards the likes of Snoopy, Jigz, Mask, Hurriwind. Everybody else is a prime candidate for a Mercury to aggress onto. It's only fineokay who has the power, I think, to really keep Weekend at bay. But how long can fineokay control this Mercury and still rely on his team to stay safe?
Right. I mean, that's the Mercury's job is to look for the flanks, but Mercury will have to sort of change his role as we get a little bit deeper into the game. Right now, Weekend's role is to catch Pele, kind of sleeping on the left-hand side. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, it's 4-on-4.
Luminosity able to pressure that mid lane tower because CLG just not keeping up in terms of itemization and levels. The level gap is starting to slowly trickle over into not just the jungle and hunter aspects for Luminosity, but every role, quite frankly. Weekend, though, not aware of the fact that he was standing right on top of a ward, so Maz was never in any real danger. But Mercury split push is a thing to be feared for good reason, because you're so fast with the added mobility of that Golden Blade, plus your boots, and even if he decides to go for the Hasted Katana, which I'm not too certain he'll invest towards, I think that if we do see him building into the Katana tree, it'll probably be for the likes of a Stone Cutting to better deal with Jigz and fineokay.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, the Stone Cutting Sword is usually the default option, and we'll keep an eye on things and where they go. Certainly curious to see the builds coming out from, I don't want to say new characters. Mercury and some of these other gods are super old, but they're newer to the meta. And usually when characters come in and out, then it's different applications, right? So half HP, okay, there we go. Weekend and Clout just take care of the Gold Fury. And that's exactly what you were referencing before.
And that's exactly what will happen to the Fire Giant if Counter-Logic Gaming aren't careful here. Luminosity already rolling out. And when they're all grouped up like this, Tom, I'd imagine that that's got to be an immediate red flag for all of CLG. They're already starting to transition over into the jungle now, but Luminosity have now managed to split CLG one more time. Hurriwind's the only one underneath the T2 tower right now, and Jigz are running back over to try and give some backup for his mid laner.
Meanwhile, left side, it's Kiki versus Snoopy. Snoopy gonna get stunned out. The Terra just blowing Snoopy up here. Earthen Fury activated, and the level 17 Hunter has to run away from the Voidstone touting Guardian. Will be chased by Isle.
He went into the Astral Barrage even. That's how scared he was of Kiki still chasing him. And Kiki's damage, I mean, just looking at his build, those pen boots and the Voidstone.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. Now Snoopy is without an Aegis for the next 2.5 minutes. And Luminosity, with that distraction, and Mask even starting to rotate over, I believe, to try and give back up to Snoopy just in case Kiki had kept going. That's just another easy objective for Luminosity.
Luminosity has just been given these objectives.
Oh,
3 Gold Furies and a Fire Giant on the horizon. This won't be a surprise, though. Jigz is here. So is the Athena.
I like the Aussie buy. That was a very smart buy for Weekend into the composition that he's facing. Not a whole lot of interrupt or reason for him to really prioritize a Haste and Katana. It's a nice staple item to build on Mercury, but not always a necessity.
Yeah, I've seen the Artio a little bit. That, of course, brings the attack speed. I've even seen the Blood Forge just for the shield. Mercury's going to be behind enemy lines. You know, it's interesting that lifesteal on characters like Mercury, I think, are very deceptive, because theoretically you'll buy a bunch of lifesteal and just be able to punch your way through a team fight, but you still get bursted leaking.
But lifesteal is to make it so that Weekend can solo the Fire Giant if necessary, but you gotta hold that thought. Inbound already on the run here. Maz looking to get a nice flank around. Great Vulcan ultimate right on top of Inbound just to make sure that CLG don't collapse right away.
Meanwhile, Luminosity looking to collapse, and they're gonna retreat. CLG one more time to the airport.
That was probably the most successful engagement we've seen, though, from CLG this entire 24 minutes and climbing, and yet they're still unable to bring anybody down.
They're still 10K behind. I mean, it's rough for Counterlogic Gaming here. Like I said, Mask seems to be the one that's really kind of driving the ship, and the team not kind of keeping up. Hurriwind had a nice moment or two, but the Puch kind of prevented him from really tricking out. Meanwhile, fineokay, Snoopy, Jigz, just not really making an interesting impact.
I think the problem for CLG right now is that their carries don't win in their direct 1v1 matchups.
Yeah, I think it's more about the team as a whole, 5-on-5. Luminosity Gaming here. Start with the Fire Giant one more time. Inbound stuck in between. Nice job there from CLG. Clout kind of contributed, by the way. Fire Giant leashed and thought about one more time.
And there's not really any anti-heal either, actually. Taking a look at CLG, the only anti-heal they have is the direct effects of Puch. And yep. I feel like CLG might be relying on this Puch a little bit too heavily for how low of an impact Hurriwind has made.
Yeah, you've got a couple of people across the way that are problematic. Kiki has got the heals. I mean, Inbound has got the heals as well. I wouldn't mind seeing, you know, a Divine Ruin on somebody, or even something with a beat stick at the very least. Just something to cut down the
even a Pestilence.
Yeah, even a Pestilence would be fine. Let Kiki pick up a Pestilence. I mean, he's gonna pick up the Only Hunters Guard because it's $12. But I mean, last item maybe.
And it looks like CLG might already be starting to realize how problematic the sustain is steadily growing, because Luminosity were poked out on that Fire Giant attempt, and they're mostly damaged by the Fire Giant, but then it just turned around almost instantly because of the sustain as soon as they waited out the duration of this Puch.
Well, there's the big ultimate, and everybody walks away. They'll come right back in. There's no real reason for concern here, though, for Luminosity. Just look at this. Between Inbound and Kiki, everybody from Luminosity is already topped up in health. Geno might be running a little bit low on mana, but he's Vulcan and a mage, and we all know how deceptive those mage mana bars can be. He needs one ultimate. There it is. It's going to land on Jigz and cut the support down half. Inbound tanking. Weekend on the back line looking for a perfect ultimate. Meanwhile, Geno's still aggressive. He's got 10% on the tower.
Weekend's threat of positioning, though, forces all of CLG back. They were hesitating in the back line of their T2 tower because they couldn't decide between stopping Luminosity from hitting the T2 for free or setting up into a position that would allow Weekend to get a possible 3 to 5 man Sonic Boom, which, probably considering the choice that CLG chose to take there of just forfeiting the T2 tower, that was the best option I think that they had left for them.
Probably. I mean, the tier 2 tower at that point is obviously there's the gold amount, but the map cost of opportunity, I think, is relatively low there in that scenario. So.
How are Luminosity going to buy a Divine Ruin, though, before CLG?
They're not.
They do. Geno's got a Divine Ruin. He has more anti-heal than the entirety of CLG into a not directly healer composition. It's just to inconvenience Snoopy, to inconvenience Hurriwind and Mass. Even Artio.
Oh, man. It's just embarrassing for CLG. Like, that's kind of Smite 101, right? Although, are they losing to the sustain?
I think it's posing an unnecessary issue that could have been dealt with had they prioritized anti-heal a little bit sooner. It's not necessarily that sustain is obviously generating all these positive situations for Luminosity, so much as it is a win more effect from the entire team as a whole.
At the same time, there is a significant amount of healing, so the anti-heal might not be too terrible of a choice. You can see how it grows. One more time, Luminosity starting up the Fire Giant. And they're going to get it nice and easily in just before our 29th minute. Luminosity Gaming's holding on to that lead. 62,000 gold is what CLG have. Luminosity dwarfing that by about 18 grand. They're sitting up at 8,000. Maybe make that 81,000 and almost a 20K lead, Taco. This is brutal.
Leads like this, also, once it starts getting into the latter portions of a match, aren't typically felt as much, but in CLG's current position, they are struggling to even have members with 5 full items in comparison to Luminosity, who are rounding off their 6. So having a 1.5 or full level or itemization advantage is incredibly difficult to fight into. We can doing also what I believe is the right call here of trying to split push, because CLG, since they're already so far behind, are only going to struggle trying to defend.
Weekend gonna come right on through, set up his hunter, Clout, picking up kill number 2. 5-on-4 on the right side. Terra Luminosity Gaming now looking for their second Phoenix of the match.
And Weekend goes right back to split pushing. It's a one-man advantage, as is. If anybody tries to pay mind to Weekend on this mid-Phoenix, well, it looks like actually CLG are going to forfeit the right-hand side and try to put a final defense on the mid lane. Kiki, though, going incredibly deep here, going to pull down half of Snoopy's health bar. Impale's just going to destroy Snoopy instantly.
That one was just clean. The mid lane Phoenix gone as well. CLG playing defense, 3 players on it. Inbound with another great pull. He's starting to feel out the mouse and keyboard, Taco, and that's going to be a scary sight.
Clout, there is nothing more satisfying than Goomba stomping somebody with Anhur and killing them with that impale.
The knock up into the I'm with you, Taco.
The final blow. That impale is just so satisfying as a final blow.
It really is. Left side Phoenix, the only one standing here for CLG. fineokay gonna get in trouble, but masked. Ultimately in trouble. Has to wiggle away. He'll be fine.
That's every Phoenix, though, so CLG maybe not as fine with all of their Phoenixes missing. Luminosity now looking to reset. They still have about 1.5 minutes left on this Fire Giant. That is ample time here, Tom, if they wish to continue harassing CLG. I like that Luminosity are also still trying to keep these creep waves pushed as far as possible, because now with all the fire minions starting to pour through, CLG, it's not just one lane that they have to be concerned about. It is all 3 with fire minions, and I feel like this is just going to result in Luminosity backing, finishing off all of their builds, buying their 3K pots, buying all their wards that they feel are going to help them out with this final push. And then I think they're just going to charge down the front door.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best plan of action. Got 20,000 gold above your opposition, and that matters now, but likely won't within the next 5 to 10 minutes, because Counter Logic Gaming will be able to just ramp it up, grab some extra gold, and go ahead and find their win elsewhere. But for right now, LG kind of just pushing forward, and this should be relatively unceremonious. They need to just kind of walk up there and do the damn thing. because I think it'll be very problematic for Luminosity Gaming should they try to stop it.
All right, now it's just Clout and Inbound. Geno's going to join them. A little bit late to the parties. Kiki and Weekend doing a great job to push out one other lane. So CLG won't have to worry about that left side for a little bit longer than mid and right. But still, 2 waves of fire minions is rather annoying to try and handle when you have all of Luminosity right on your front door.
Meanwhile, Mercury's in the right lane waiting for the opportunity to cut down with the ultimate. CLG pushing forward, but not too far. Weekend here, local, misses special delivery. Just dishing out some amount of damage.
Patience is a virtue here for Luminosity, but Geno's going to invest that Earthshaker, already looking for the full commit here underneath the Titan. Kiki's Earth and Fury comes out, but no one has fallen still for CLG.
Luminosity needs to turn it up right now. fineokay down to 25%. Here comes Weekend looking for somebody. But a strong ultimate from Hurry will separate the final objective away from LG.
2 ults expended so far from CLG. Mass, Jigz, and Snoopy still have all of theirs. And it's looking like Luminosity are actually just going to fall back towards the Fire Giant now that their own Fire Giant buff has worn off. That engagement went on about a minute after, so they had enough time for the FG to respawn. And Clout's already going to start putting in work against it. Doesn't even need Weekend nearby. Instead, Weekend is just going to remove the map of any global objectives that might have helped out CLG just a little bit here. And then after that, I'd expect all of Luminosity to back and gear up for their final, or for the next Phoenix push. I can't really call it the final Phoenix push because it's uncertain as to whether or not they'll be able to end.
I feel like it is the expected final push. Luminosity will win this game with this push unless CLG does something big and drastic.
It was just too difficult for Luminosity to try and all-in commit against CLG in that last team fight because they knew that the Fire Giant buff was about to wear off, and CLG at a competitive level of play, they knew that the Fire Giant buff was about to run off. Also, as soon as that Fire Giant goes down, any pro player is going to drop the timer that it'll respawn in the chat.
Yeah, you got to have that on lock, so players always mindful. We were talking about relic timers before. I mean, that's even more important. We have the luxury of the 2 boxes on the top left.
Yeah, you guys don't have to guess. You can just see it. Fire Giant, oh, in 4 minutes it'll be back.
Yep, nice and easy there. 35-20 clock. Luminosity Gaming 25,000 in the lead.
If CLG can continue to push Luminosity back, however, they might be able to turn this one around. A couple of good team wipes because CLG do have a pretty decent late game composition here outside of maybe the Pele, but I think Mast, if he's assisted appropriately with the rest of CLG, they can maybe make something good happen.
Hurriwind as well. Puch, one of the better characters in Area Denial. One of those areas absolutely defeated. Kuzenbo trying to intercept some of this damage. Here comes Luminosity, though, pushing for what could be the final push. And there's 25%. Luminosity Gaming playing D. They're able to push the enemy off of their throne room. Up to the sky goes Snoopy. One shot will do it. Clout, he's right there. And Snoop goes ahead and takes care of business.
With Clout falling, I'm not too sure that Luminosity is going to be able to end here anytime soon unless they get some crazy kills in a moment. Special delivery onto fineokay, but that's the Kuzenbo. He's happy to be collected by that one out of Weekend. Titan is rather low, though, sitting at 50% health. I think once Clout respawns, we might just see the all-in attempt from Luminosity onto that Titan.
It's possible, but the problem is now it gets really scary. LG, if they go boots to the ceiling, they go all the way out, and they try to take care of the Titan. They surge with 5 players, and they get wiped. 5 minutes ago, at 30 minutes when they were really talking about it the first time with the first Fire Giant, they lose their towers, maybe a Phoenix. Now, if you push with 5 players and you lose the team fight, you might lose the game because of respawn timers. At the very least, CLG are an even plane almost with their itemization.
I think it would take more than just one good team wipe onto Luminosity mostly because there's still 5 towers still standing there. CLG.
Those 2 towers in the mid lane are like a sneeze away, or
no,
mid
but
and
even
left.
if they tried to rush down mid, the Titan's still going to be healthier with the other 3 towers, and I don't think that they would have the time to battle through fire minions and the T2s and a Phoenix. I think if they tried to push any further after the Phoenix, they would get wiped by Luminosity.
Well, CLG going to try the old okey doke, come behind the enemy, drop down the ultimate, and there's Puch as well. Trouble for Kiki. He's isolated, and Hurriwind will find him. Another good pull by Inbowned. I think he's feeling the mouse a little bit better these days.
A lot of damage, though.
Not good enough.
Decent amounts, though, and Luminosity don't seem very swayed here. They're still pushing forward to get to CLG. Despite having lost Kiki, they want this Titan more than anything.
Not going to be this time around, however. Rather unfortunate for Luminosity. They've come this far. They've practiced. They've gotten better. But one of the sort of marks of a mid-level team, or a team that is on the up and up but has not yet really reached that cusp to make them an enlightened civilization, if you will, is the lack of ability to close out games. Pushing through Phoenixes and using your advantage is a difficult part of the meta.
Had all of Luminosity been there in that moment, though, with the amount of damage that Kiki was able to put out, CLG wipes there. No doubt in my mind. So it was a nice call from CLG to wrap around Luminosity's backside.
Yeah, that was a good call.
In the mid lane, because you would never expect a team that's as far behind as CLG is to want to make that sort of move with all their Phoenixes being down, because that's a make or break it kind of call.
That tied the game. That almost tied the game. CLG's support is an item behind, but everybody's level 20. Everybody else is full build. Luminosity has a fire giant, but this whole big go to the grass. Can we see? I don't care. I don't care about the grass. I don't care about the grass. It's too late. It's 40 minutes in.
Those numbers only keep going up in Luminosity's favor, but they're not as impactful. I definitely understand what you're saying. It might have looked confusing in the years back at home, but at a certain point, that lead build doesn't matter anymore. Luminosity, though, still trying to pressure as though they're 30,000 gold ahead, and CLG unable to defend their mid Phoenix. That's going to wind up falling. Titan's still so low.
Big ultimate from Geno gets Hurriwind off the side of it. Nice job there. He's going to call glass. And Luminosity Gaming, all 3 Phoenixes of their opponent's base are carved out. And LG trying to finish this. Weakened from the right to the left. Can't find a target. Jigz gonna get a big old stun.
But Jigz got separated from the rest of the pack. Now CLG are falling apart one by one. The Firemans on the left-hand side and the right-hand side starting to make their way in. Snoopy's gonna be the next to fall. Mask in the backside too. They'll take care of him, because why not? Another impale kill for Clout as the Titan falls.
Yeah, nice job. Big plays. LG gonna take this one. 12 kills and 40 minutes. 12 kills. I definitely would have thought there was more.
It was just the constant disengages from CLG. They had a lot of really solid disengage moments there from Luminosity, and after a certain point, Luminosity just weren't able to stick around for much longer. I do feel like a lot of this game, though, was a massive hindrance on CLG themselves, because they refused to buy anti-heal for so long.
Yeah, I think that certainly caused some issues for CLG. They've got to kind of wrap things up and get a little tighter. I will say both teams do look nicer with their respective roster changes. Let's break it down. Desk.
Hey, it's us. Breaking it down, or whatever that was. A longer game, but Luminosity do end up taking the victory here over CLG. Geno in particular, I think, had a lot of really good moments.
Oh, yes. Over 50,000 player damage that game. Weekend setting up a lot of plays on his own right. A lot of objective from control out of LG from the very beginning of the game. It was difficult for Hurriwind to really get in the thick of things. Despite only having 2 deaths, he wasn't really that impactful that you would expect from an Puch.
33,000 player healing, 34,000 actually player healing between Kiki and Inbound. That's quite a bit, and Weekend was able to do quite a lot with it. He is your MVP despite 54,000 player damage for Geno. I know Weekend made plays, chat, but Weekend had 15K. I mean,
let's be real now. Like, a lot of those were last hits. Like, look at this one. Boom. He one-punched him at the end.
I mean, he did seal away that Pyromancer on the right side. That was pretty nice, and Weekend certainly did set up a lot of plays for Geno and the rest of Luminosity, but I think Geno does deserve a lot of credit for the game that he played. A couple long-range ultimates that were really key, and just the way that he was able to put out consistent damage in the team fights is often much more important than the ability to hit that one shot, you know, big play sort of instance. To be able to consistently deal damage throughout the team is really a lot more important.
And there was just a lot of good control on the side of LG behind Anhur even for the Clout. You got the Sylvanus for Inbound. Terra even there in the solo lane was making the impact for Kiki, and we mentioned the healing. 33,000 is no number to scoff at. It was basically almost negating the entirety of Hurriwind's damage.